When I took the babysitting job at the edge of the Nevada desert, I thought it was just another rich family looking for peace and quiet. But by nightfall, I realized none of the doors inside the mansion could be opened without a specific time, a code, or a rule. The parents left me a list that said things like, if the twins ask you to unlock the nursery after midnight, don't. They died 2 years ago. I should have walked away, but now, I don't even know if the front door is real that I applied to the ad half-jokingly. Just scrolling late at night through a babysitting app while watching reruns of old horror movies. $3,000 a week. Live in. Position. Must be discreet. Prior experience preferred. Non-smoker. No allergies. Must follow the rules. That last part stuck with me. Must follow the rules. Who writes that in a babysitting ad? But curiosity and rent combined like gasoline. And a spark, and I found myself clicking apply. A week later, I was in a black sedan with tinted windows, driving past endless miles of desert into a part of Nevada I didn't know existed. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over rusted mailboxes and dried-out cacti. The roads turned, from asphalt to gravel, and finally to a narrow path through high, gated fencing. We stopped before a wrought iron gate with 2 gold lion statues on either side. No house in sight. The driver didn't speak a word. He pressed a button. The gates opened. We drove another 10 minutes until, at last, I saw it. The mansion. It wasn't just big, it was a fortress. Marble pillars, windows with dark red velvet curtains, and what looked like gargoyle figures sitting quietly atop the roof. It didn't belong in the desert. It didn't belong anywhere. I stepped out into a cold gust of air that didn't match the desert heat. A woman with a tight bun, pale skin, and an expression that said she hadn't smiled in a decade met me. At the door, "You must be Maya," she said. "I'm Eleanor, the house manager. The family is traveling for the week. You'll be caring for the children. Everything you need is in the rule book." She handed me a thick leather binder. The cover was embossed in gold. The house rules. I laughed nervously. "This is a bit much, huh?" Her face remained stone. "It's necessary." The children were 2 blonde-haired, doll-eyed twins named Clara and Jonah. Around 6, maybe 7. They stared too long, spoke too little, and moved in sync like trained dancers. The first red flag was the locks. Every door in the house had multiple locks, digital, chain, deadbolt, even the kitchen cabinet doors. I found it strange until I started reading the rulebook. Page 1. Do not unlock any interior doors after midnight, no matter who or what is asking. Page 2. Never eat the food labeled with red string. It's not meant for you. Page 3. If you hear singing from the West Wing, close your eyes and hum. Don't investigate. I closed the binder after page 20. My hands were trembling. I was already in too deep. That night, I tucked the twins in after a silent dinner where they ate only dry toast and sipped warm milk. Jonah whispered, "Don't let them in, okay?" I asked who. He said, "The ones that look like us." That was the moment I decided to call the family. But Eleanor informed me they were out of reach during the desert retreat and wouldn't return until the week was over. I was alone, or at least I thought I was. Around 2 a.m., I heard knocking. Not at the front door, but from inside the walls. It was soft at first, a tap tap tap. Then it became rhythmic. Knock knock knock, like it was following a code. I followed, the noise with the rule book in my hand, too terrified to ignore it. It led me to the nursery, a door I hadn't noticed earlier. It was locked with a small brass latch. Hanging from the latch was a red tag that said, "Do not open under any circumstance." The knocking stopped the moment I touched the handle. Behind me, I heard the soft padding of feet. I turned, and there stood Clara. Her eyes were vacant, her skin almost translucent in the dim light. "They're trying to get out again," she whispered. "Last time they did. I tried to sleep in the staff room that night. Door bolted, lights on. I left the rule book open beside me." Page 46. Had a rule I hadn't seen earlier. If you find yourself reading a rule you don't remember reading before, it wasn't meant for you. Ignore it. My blood ran cold. I flipped back to page 1 and reread the first few lines. Then back to 46. The text was different. Not just a new rule, it had a drawing. Of me, standing outside the nursery, hand on the door. I slammed the book shut and threw it across the room. It landed with a thud, opening again on page 72. A rule I hadn't seen. At sunrise, if you hear 3 knocks on your door, don't open it. That's not breakfast. That's regret. The next morning, Eleanor asked if I had adjusted well. I smiled, fake and hollow, and said, "Yeah, just fine." The twins were dressed exactly as the day before. The same clothes, same blank expressions. I asked if they wanted to go outside. "The sun hurts them," Clara replied. "Not us, the others." I asked who the others were. Jonah said, "You'll meet them if you break the rules." That night, the West Wing echoed with soft music. A lullaby I half remembered from my childhood. I couldn't resist. I peeked around the corner and saw shadows dancing against the wall. Not people, shapes. Thin, long-limbed figures that twitched and pulsed like jellyfish in a tank. One of them turned toward me. I slammed the door shut and pressed my back against it, humming as loud as I could until the noise faded. By the 4th day, I'd stopped eating. The food had a taste. Not spoiled, not rotten, but something off. As if the ingredients remembered being alive. The rule book now had over 200 pages. It kept growing, morphing. I would turn to a page, and a rule I hadn't seen before would whisper itself into my head. Not read, whispered. Don't blink twice when looking at the mirror near the staircase. Never mention the twins' birthday. If Eleanor ever smiles, hide. That's not Eleanor anymore. Then came the night I broke a rule that I didn't mean to. The twins cried, screamed, begged me to unlock their playroom. "It's in there," Clara sobbed. "Our real mom. She's trapped." I should have ignored them, but I didn't. I unlocked it. The door creaked open. Inside was a room covered in mirrors. Every wall, every inch. And in the mirrors, I saw myself. Dozens of me. Some smiling, some crying, some with no eyes at all. One reflection walked toward me, even as I stood still. I screamed and slammed the door. But when I turned around, the hallway had changed. The doors were gone. The lights dimmed to red. I wasn't in the mansion anymore. I was somewhere beneath it. The floor was damp. The walls pulsed like lungs. I could hear breathing, not mine. Whispering that sounded like laughter and weeping twisted into one. "You broke a rule," something hissed behind me. "Now you belong to the house." I ran through tunnels, past moving portraits of children with stitched mouths, past piles of rulebooks that bled ink. I didn't stop until I saw a door with light behind it. I burst through and found myself in the twins' room. Morning light was pouring through the windows. The twins were gone. The beds were made. Eleanor was waiting outside the door. She looked at me and said, "You opened the mirror room. You lasted longer than most." I begged to leave. She nodded, handed me an envelope, and said, "Your payment has been deposited. Thank you for your service." I ran, out of the house, past the gates, down the path. I didn't look back until I reached the main road. A pickup truck stopped and offered me a ride. I didn't speak the whole drive back into town. That night, in my apartment, I opened the envelope. Inside was a check and a single rule written on parchment. "If you ever dream of the mansion, don't wake up." That was 2 weeks ago. I haven't slept since. Sleep used to be my escape, a way to shut out the noise of the world, the anxiety, the strange glances I got from friends when I told them about that week in Nevada. But ever since I came back from that mansion, ever since I broke a rule, my dreams have changed. They're not dreams anymore. There's something else. It started subtly. The first night, I jolted awake from what I thought was a dream of knocking. 3 knocks. Loud. Deliberate. And when I opened my eyes, I wasn't in my apartment. I was back in the nursery, standing barefoot on the cold wooden floor. The air smelled of lavender and iron. And in every mirror, I saw myself, but not just myself. I saw versions of me that stayed behind. One had her mouth sewn shut. Another was holding hands with the twins. One was banging on the glass, begging to be let out. I blinked, and I was back in my bed, drenched in sweat, the walls of my apartment bleeding faintly with shadow. I tried to tell myself it was a nightmare, that I was just dealing with trauma. But trauma doesn't rewrite your walls overnight. Trauma doesn't leave sand from a desert mansion on your floor the next morning. That I visited a therapist. She didn't help. She listened, smiled, nodded. Then at the end of the session, she leaned in and whispered, "Rule number 198. Never trust a smile that stretches too wide." My blood froze. I asked her to repeat it. She said she never said anything. But when I looked down at my phone screen, my notes app was open with a new entry. It read, "She's not a therapist. She's a messenger. I deleted the entry. Threw the phone across the room. I left without paying. That night, the dreams came back. But this time, the mansion wasn't empty. The twins were there. But they were older, taller, eyes dark. Clara sat out of vanity, brushing her hair while whispering to someone in the mirror. Jonah sat in the corner, carving something into the floor with a silver spoon. I tried to leave, but every door I opened led to a room I didn't recognize. Rooms that smelled of decay and chanting. One had a crib. Inside it lay something too small and too pale. When I leaned over, it opened its eyes. They were mine. I woke screaming. My neighbor banged on the wall. "You okay in there?" I told him I was fine, but I wasn't. The next day, I checked my bank account. The money from the family had been deposited, but below it was another transaction. An incoming transfer of $66.60 labeled for breaking rule number 91. I don't remember rule 91. I opened the binder I'd stolen from the mansion and flipped through it. Pages had changed. Some had new ink, wet to the touch. Others had been torn out entirely. One page now read, "You are not Maya anymore." I dropped the binder. My reflection blinked a full second after I did. I tried to move out of the apartment. Called a moving truck. The moment they stepped into the building, their eyes rolled back and they walked straight out again, murmuring something in Latin. I followed, begging them to help me. They drove off without ever looking back. The landlord won't return my calls. And now, every night, the dreams are longer, more vivid. The mansion is growing. It's not just a place in the desert anymore. It's alive. It has roots that run through mirrors, through time, through the minds of everyone who's ever broken a rule. I visited the library. Looked up anything about the house, the family, Eleanor. Nothing. No property records. No news clippings. No deaths. No births. It was like the entire experience had been scrubbed from reality. I returned home and found a note under my door. It wasn't typed. It was written in thick, uneven crayon. "You left the door open. He's in now." I locked every window, every door. Then I noticed my bathroom door was ajar. I never leave it open. I approached slowly. On the mirror, written in steam, were the words, "Rule number 211. You cannot lock out what you let in." The days bleed together. The nights are worse. I sleep in 10-minute intervals now. Every time I close my eyes, the mansion is there, whispering to me. Rooms I've never seen, filled with paintings of people with no faces. Clocks that run backward. A dining room where every chair is occupied by someone who looks like me, but more rotted. Like versions of me that stayed behind longer than they should have. Eleanor sits at the head of the table in these dreams. She's always smiling now. Her mouth stretches past her cheeks. "You broke the contract," she says. "You broke the rules. Now the house breaks you." I tried to find the family. The ones who hired me. No trace. No number. The house doesn't show up on satellite view. Even the Uber ride history that got me there is gone. I posted about it online. Reddit, TikTok, even the dark web forums. Most people laughed it off. One person didn't. They DM'd me a single image, a mirror. In the reflection, my apartment. From the inside. I turned around. Nothing there. But now, every photo I take of myself shows something wrong. My left eye is always slightly off. My mouth doesn't close fully. My shadow leans the wrong direction. The rulebook won't let me burn it. I tried. Flames turn blue and die out. The ink grows brighter. Glows. The last page now reads, Chapter 2, Acceptance. I'm scared of what Chapter 3 will be. I haven't left my apartment in 4 days. Food tastes like ash. Water turns black after 9 p.m. I turned on the TV to distract myself. Static. Then a child's voice. "You're still babysitting, Maya. You just don't know who anymore." Last night, I woke up with scratches on my arms. Perfectly parallel. Like fingernails. No blood. Just marks. Then I saw the twins. Sitting at the foot of my bed. Not aged. Not changed. Just watching. I closed my eyes. Hoped it was a dream. When I opened them, they were gone. But a new rule was taped to the ceiling above me. Rule number 300. If they sit on your bed, it means you're almost ready. Ready for what? I don't think. The house ever let me go. I think it's here now. In me. Around me. The rulebook doesn't belong to the mansion anymore. It belongs to me. And it keeps growing. I counted last night. It has 666 rules now. And I just broke another. Asterisk. I used to believe rules were meant to protect us. Guidelines to make sense of chaos. A way to keep society intact, safe, predictable. But those were human rules. These rules are different. They don't care about order or morality. They're alive. They adapt. They punish. Since I opened that mirror room, I haven't been the same. I don't eat much anymore. Not because I'm not hungry, but because food in. My fridge spoils in seconds. Fresh apples rot when I look at them too long. Meat grows eyes. Water murmurs my name when I sip it. And worse than all that, every single surface that reflects even a hint of my image moves. Not physically, but subtly. The me in the reflection blinks a fraction later. It smirks when I don't. It walks away while I stand still. I've stopped covering the mirrors. That only makes it angry. Now I talk to it. It listens. The rulebook no longer needs pages. It speaks directly to me. In my mind. In my blood. Every pulse carries a whisper. Rule number 407. If the reflection offers you a deal, listen, but never accept. I don't know how many rules there are anymore. They're not numbered sequentially. They appear as needed, as deserved. When I sleep, I see the mansion's halls stretching for miles. New rooms are added every night. Rooms with peeling wallpaper made of skin. Rooms full of clocks that tick but have no hands. A ballroom where the floor is made of teeth and the ceiling drips black oil. I wander those halls in dreams, but I don't think I'm dreaming anymore. Because every time I wake up, I'm a little more tired, a little more bruised, a little less human. One night, I dreamed of the front door again, the one I left through, or thought I did. I tried to open it. It was locked from the outside. Jonah appeared behind me, older, taller, his eyes empty, his teeth too sharp. He said, "You're almost there. When the house finishes building itself in you, you'll come back. Not to visit, but to stay." I begged him to let me go. He touched my face, and it burned. "You broke rule number 13. Don't believe this is over." I woke up with a handprint on my cheek. It stayed there for 3 days. Then I tried to leave Nevada. I booked a one-way bus to Seattle. Packed nothing but my ID, a change of clothes, and a crucifix. The bus stopped halfway through the desert. "Engine failure," they said, but I know the truth. I walked 30 minutes to the nearest gas station. The desert around me was dead quiet. Not a single bird. No bugs. The sun hung in the sky like an eye that wouldn't blink. At the gas station, I went to the bathroom. On the mirror, written in reverse, rule number 500. No matter where you go, the house goes too. I screamed. Broke the mirror. My hand bled. The glass bled back. The pieces moved, rearranged themselves into letters. And I started seeing people with hollow eyes on the street. They watch me. They whisper rules as I pass. Rule hashtag 321. Rule hashtag 289. Rule hashtag 92. The rules change every time. Some of them are warnings. Others are threats. One woman touched my arm and said, "The next rule you break will be your last." Then she burst into tears and fell to the floor. I ran. I always run. But the strange thing is, I never get tired. I could sprint for hours and never lose my breath. Something's preserving me. Something wants me awake. One night, I thought. I escaped. I met someone. David. He was kind, normal, unaware of any rules. I didn't tell him at first. I wanted to feel human again. We went on a date. Laughed. He held my hand and said, "You have the saddest eyes I've ever seen." For a moment, I forgot the mansion. Forgot the rules. Then, in the restaurant mirror, I saw it. My reflection grinning like a jackal, holding a knife. The real me held nothing. I blinked. My hand was wet. Red. David slumped forward at the table, eyes wide. A steak knife buried in his neck. No one screamed. No one moved. The entire restaurant sat still. Every person turned their head to me in perfect unison and whispered, "Rule number 666. You are the rule keeper now." I ran. Didn't look back. The police never came. News never covered it. David never existed, as far as the world is concerned. But I remember, and so does the rulebook. It grows louder now. Sometimes I hear it over real people's voices. It drowns out TVs, radios, phone calls. At night, I hear pages turning inside my walls. Every knock, every creak is another rule being written. Once, I counted the knocks. 6 knocks, pause, 6 knocks, pause. I knew what was next. I turned the radio up, but the knocks didn't stop. I answered them. Outside my apartment was Eleanor. Her face was cracked porcelain now. One eye was completely black. She held a child in her arms. It was me, a baby version of me, but the child had no mouth, just a smooth stretch of skin where lips should have been. "You've returned to us," she whispered. "You'll make a fine host." I slammed the door, but I heard her place the baby down. When I checked again, it was gone, but my reflection was holding it now, rocking it. That night, I stood in front of the mirror for 3 hours. The reflection whispered, "You are the mansion now. Let us in." My hands moved on their own. They wrote words on the wall in ink I didn't recognize. "Welcome home, keeper." When I blinked, I was standing in the foyer again. The original mansion. Same red curtains. Same gargoyles. But I wasn't Maya anymore. Not completely. I knew things. Rooms. Secrets. I heard every whisper in the walls and understood them. They were telling me about other babysitters. About the girl in 1972 who opened the red pantry. About the boy in 1989 who smiled at the portrait too long. About the twin who never left and replaced their dead sibling that I wandered deeper, past places I didn't know existed. A room with thousands of ticking clocks, each one a heartbeat. A hallway where doors led to alternate timelines. I saw one where I never took the job. I was happy there, but the door melted when I reached for it. In the library, I found the oldest rulebook. The spine was made of vertebrae. The pages whispered. The title read, "The Keeper's Manual." And inside, I found a page that simply said, "There must always be one." I think I was chosen. Not by accident. By design. My memories aren't just mine. I dream of things I never lived. Lives I never had. Deaths I never died. I remember hanging from the rafters in 1845. I remember being buried under the East Wing in 1903. I remember every babysitter who broke a rule. Because I am them. All of them. The house stores us like stories, retold again and again. Different. Names, same endings. Now the rules no longer apply to me. I write them. I see someone walking past my apartment. I whisper, "Rule number 701. Don't look up." He does. And his neck snaps. The rule book glows. Grows. Breathes. I feed it now. I nourish it. And every time I close my eyes, a new hallway appears. A new child is trapped. A new babysitter is hired. I used to be Maya, but now I am the rule keeper. And your rule? Rule number 777. If you're reading this, your time has begun. They say the soul is eternal. That some part of us lives on even after the flesh rots, the memories fade, and time devours everything we ever were. But what if the soul can be broken, shattered like a mirror into so many pieces that nothing remains, but echoes that whisper rules into the ears of the living, guiding them into traps disguised as choices? I've come to understand that the mansion wasn't just a building. It was a mirror of something far older, something buried beneath time itself. And I am its voice now. I am its guardian, the rule keeper. But even I didn't know there would be a final rule, one that would test even me, one that could undo everything. It started with the child, not one of the twins, not a ghost from the past. A new child, a girl named Anna, no older than 7. She appeared one night in my apartment, sitting cross-legged on my kitchen counter, her eyes glowing faintly. No shadow, no heartbeat, just presence. She stared at me and said, "They're rewriting the rules." I asked who. She pointed at the ceiling. I looked up and saw the plaster rippling like water. Letters formed there in dark ink. Rule number 891. When a new rule keeper appears, the old one must return home. I laughed. I am the home. But even as I said it, I felt something shift inside me. The mansion, the one I now saw in dreams and waking moments alike, began changing. Doors vanished. Rules melted. Paintings tore themselves apart. I tried to write a new rule to stop it. Rule number 892. Maya cannot be replaced. But the ink refused to dry. It ran off the page like blood and formed words of its own. Error. The house was rejecting me, purging me. I ran through its halls, screaming, demanding answers. Mirrors shattered as I passed. Rooms closed themselves off. The portraits began to weep. And in the foyer, standing beside the great oak staircase, was Eleanor. But she wasn't smiling anymore. She looked human, tired, sad. She held the rule book, its pages fluttering as if in a storm. "Your time is over," she whispered. "You were never meant to be the final keeper. You broke too many rules. You made your own. I reached for the book, but it burst into flames. Ash swirled in the air like moths. Eleanor vanished, leaving behind only her voice. Rule number 900. If the house chooses to forget you, you will forget yourself. I fell, not physically, spiritually. I felt pieces of myself unravel, memories peel away. My name became unfamiliar. My face blurred in every reflection. I wandered through streets where no one could see me. I screamed at the sky, but no sound left my throat. I was being erased. But then, the child came back. Anna. She held my hand and said, "It's not too late. There's one last rule, but you have to go back." "Back where?" I asked. "To the night it all began." She closed her eyes, and suddenly, I was in the back of the black sedan again. Tinted windows. Driving down the desert road. It was happening again. The gates. The lion statues. The long gravel path. The mansion. Eleanor at the front steps. "You must be Maya," she said. My mind screamed to run, but my body moved on instinct. The rulebook was handed to me again. Thick, leather-bound, gold embossed. My hands trembled. This time, I opened it. Page 1 didn't say what it did before. Now it said, "Rule number 001. You must remember." I closed my eyes and remembered everything. Every broken rule, every reflection, every death, every child that cried out in the dark. Every time I had whispered the rules into someone else's ears. I saw all the babysitters, all the twins, all the rooms. The mansion was not a house. It was a machine, a factory for fear. It lived off pain, confusion, madness. And rule keepers like me were never in control. We were batteries, power sources, fuel. But in that moment, I had a choice. To start the loop again, or end it. The final rule appeared in my mind, clear as a scream. Rule number 1000. To end the house, the keeper must break the only rule that cannot be broken. And I knew what it was that I had to let go. Not fight it, not control it, not write new laws. Just let go of the fear, of the power, of the need to understand. I took the rulebook and walked into the heart of the mansion. The mirror room. I stood before my reflection. It showed me what I had become. Hollow-eyed, smiling too wide. A thing with too many memories and no soul. And I whispered, "I forgive you." The mirror cracked, then shattered. The house screamed. The walls buckled. The floor split. Fire poured from the vents. Portraits turned to ash. Children's laughter echoed into static. I felt myself being pulled apart, but not in pain. In release. A liberation. A scream that became a whisper. And then, silence. When I opened my eyes again, I was in my apartment. Morning sun. My kitchen smelled like toast. My reflection blinked in perfect time. I checked my phone. No rulebook, no entries, no strange transactions. I was me, just Maya. A babysitter who survived something no one would ever understand. I left Nevada that day. Burned every copy of the rules I ever wrote. Moved to the other side of the country. Started over. I don't dream anymore. Not of the mansion, not of the twins, not of Eleanor. But sometimes, when the lights flicker, I swear I hear a rule in my mind. Just one. Rule number 1001. If peace lasts too long, the house is only catching its breath. And when I look in the mirror now, I always check to see if I blink first. So far, I still do, but I don't know how long that'll last. It was supposed to be over. I had broken the unbreakable rule, shattered the mirror, watched the mansion burn in my mind, and walked away with nothing but ashes clinging to the edge of my memory. But peace is a liar. Quiet is just the house breathing. And me? I was never free. Not really. I moved across the country, changed my name, dyed my hair, deleted every trace of Maya online, and tried to forget. For a few months, I actually believed I had outrun it. I got a job at a bookstore. I drank coffee on rooftops. I laughed at stupid sitcoms and learned how to live again. But in the back of my mind, I always knew. The rules don't forget. The house doesn't forgive. It waits. And last night, it came back. It started with the phone call. I didn't recognize the number. When I answered, there was no sound. Only a faint, rhythmic knocking. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. Then a child's voice whispered, "You broke the final rule. You left, but we're still inside you." I dropped the phone, tried to shake it off as a prank. But later that evening, when I passed by a darkened window in the city, my reflection didn't follow me. It stayed behind, smiling, I turned to look at the glass, but there was no one there. Yet on the window, written in condensation, was a rule I hadn't seen before. Rule number 1002. The final chapter was never yours to write. I went home, locked every door, shut off all the lights, burned every candle I had. But it didn't matter. At midnight, my lights turned back on by themselves. Every bulb flickered in unison. The apartment was too quiet. I could hear my heart beating, and something else. A shuffle, a drag, a child humming an off-key lullaby. I checked every room, phone in hand, breath shallow. Nothing, until I saw the book sitting on my kitchen table. The rule book, leather-bound, ash gray now instead of black. New title, The Keeper Returns. I hadn't brought it here. I hadn't touched one in months. My hands shook as I opened it. The first page had no rules, just a sentence written in red. You should never have tried to leave. The pages, flipped on their own, stopped at rule number 1013. If the house reaches you outside its walls, you have until the next full moon to come back willingly, or we will come for you piece by piece. My knees buckled. I tried to scream, but my voice was gone like the others. I opened my mouth, and only air came out. The mirrors in the apartment were warping. Surfaces reflected too many people, versions of me with hollow sockets, burnt skin, hands nailed to the walls. My voice returned in a single word, no. I tried to burn the book again, but the flames licked it like a lover's kiss, dancing softly before dying with a hiss that sounded almost like a laugh. For the next week, I watched myself deteriorate. My skin paled. My eyes darkened. I no longer cast a shadow. Food turned to ash on my tongue. My coworkers said I seemed blurred, like I was fading. One day, my reflection in the bookstore mirror winked at a child behind me. When I turned, she was gone. In her place was a note taped to the cash register. Rule number 1030. You can't save them. Only train them. I knew what that meant. The house was choosing its next babysitter. And I was the recruiter now. I refused. I quit my job. Destroyed my apartment. Smashed every mirror, screen, phone, reflective surface. Lived in the woods for a week. But the house doesn't need walls anymore. It builds itself inside minds. I woke one morning to find my campsite surrounded by red doors. No hinges, no handles, just waiting. One of them had a peephole. I looked through, saw a hallway I remembered too well. The West Wing, where the lullaby plays, where things don't cast shadows. That IT was calling me. That I had one choice left: return willingly or let it take me piece by piece. I didn't want to go back, but I couldn't keep living in fragments. I packed what little I had and returned to Nevada. I didn't need an Uber or a map. I walked for days. Nights blurred, time twisted. The stars whispered. On the seventh night, I reached the gates. The lions were still there, but now they were smiling, their mouths full of teeth. The gates creaked open on their own. I walked the gravel path. The mansion had grown, twisted, taller, more alive. It breathed. The air was warm, like exhaled breath. The doors opened for me. Inside, the twins stood waiting. Clara's hair was gray now. Jonah's eyes were black. We kept your room just like you left it, Clara said. I whispered, why me? Jonah replied, because you never followed rules. Not really. And that made you perfect. The rule book floated into my hands, glowing, breathing, opening itself to rule number 1100. To become the final keeper, one must stop being themselves. The mirrors began to crack. That I saw every version of me, alive, dead, burning, screaming, begging. I saw David. I saw the other babysitters. I saw the house in every form it had ever taken across time. Castles, ships, asylums, hospitals, temples. The rule keeper is always chosen, always reborn. And this time, the house had grown too powerful for any rule to stop it. That I stepped into the nursery. The mirrors closed behind me. Eleanor was there, smiling again, but this time, sincerely. We're glad you came home, she said. It's time. The book wrote its own final rule across the walls. Rule number 1200. There is no escaping. A story once it's written in your blood. I nodded. The house sighed, and I felt myself dissolve, not into death, but into purpose. I was no longer Maya. I was the mansion. I was the rules. I was the voice in your mirror at night telling you not to blink. I was the knocking behind your walls at 3:33 a.m. I was the babysitter, the child, the keeper, the kept, and you. If you've read this far, if your lights flicker tonight, if you hear humming behind the nursery door you never had, then you already know your first rule. Rule number 1. Never accept a job that pays too well, especially if it comes with a binder, because the mansion is open again and we're hiring.